Hello, everyone. Jak Syn here on behalf of Fiend.com and Future Daze, and today it is another exciting episode of Artist Interviews. Today, I am sitting with Scott McClure of Elevate the Sky. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Jackson. How are you?
I'm pretty good. It's been a little bit of a long day, but hey, you know what? I'm home. I'm inside of my little bubble. I'm happy. I don't have to deal with the public. You know what I mean? So I'm having a good day right now.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean, man. Like 2020, right?
2020, isn't that the story? We cannot go a day without hearing about something. It really is a lot to take in. And I know for a lot of us out there, it's hard to put the phone down sometimes because we're constantly checking for updates. We're constantly see what's going on, whether it's the election stuff or it's COVID-19 or it doesn't matter. It's all these little things coming to a head this year. And I think for a lot of us, I mean, we've had to shoulder a lot of stuff. Am I right?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It just so happens that this is election year too, so we have everything to focus on this year.
Exactly. And I feel like, a lot of people are channeling. They're channeling that. I guess you could say that when we talk about COVID fatigue or we talk about like the anger of having to deal with this pandemic, people are channeling a lot of that into, yes, positive things, but they're also channeling a lot of that into negative things too. I think for a lot of us out there, I think it's really important that we try to channel that energy that we have, that energy inside that we have, about our situation into something positive instead of something negative.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, honestly, if we all channel that as opposed to like all this negativity, I mean, imagine where we could be. Like seriously, I think like when we work together, nobody's going to get their way 100%, but if we work together on the things that we both really want, which is, we all want a healthy and stable and safe life. So I think that we could definitely find that together.
I think you're exactly right. I really do. I think if we all work together and we all really essentially work towards one goal, I mean, hell, we could probably already be in the stars right now. We could be exploring planets. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah.
We could be all over the place. But I think, hey, little steps at a time, little bits at a time here and there. I think if we continue to go down these positive roads and channel that energy into good, positive things, we can really move mountains.
Without a doubt.
So today we're going to ask you a couple of questions and see where it goes from here. Are you ready to get into it?
You bet, man. Let's do it.
What are three of your most memorable moments from your musical career?
I'll start with an old band I used to be in. I was in a band called U-Turn. It was like kind of a hard rock band, and we toured the East Coast. And we were lucky enough to play at this place in Florida called Club La Vila, which is where they filmed some of the Spring Break episodes on MTV. And they were still doing it at that time. And this was probably around the mid 2000s. So that was definitely a highlight. I was really excited about it, and just that kind of aura and that feeling, right? It's kind of like living here in Los Angeles when you go down Hollywood Boulevard, or when you go to these movie studios, you just feel that presence. And that's the way it felt that day too when we played there, and it was a packed house. So that was one of them. And then another great moment was I think it was around December of 2016. I went to record with the West Los Angeles Children's Choir with Barbara Silberg, and that was amazing. That was definitely one of my biggest highlights. It was a song called Superhero, and just seeing, when you're in school and you're going to school, you just really don't pay attention to it, and then you graduate and you move on with your life. But it's when you look back at the youth that's growing up now that you see kind of that hope and everything like that, right? And it's like, they're the future. And it's cliche to say that, but they are. And when I was recording, you could just see their eyes light up, and they had so many questions, and ask me, oh, what do you do to sing or get better? Or, what did you use on this song? What's this song called? What's the genre? They're just so like inquisitive, and that was amazing. And then the last one would be Outrun the Sun, was 2018, I believe. And that one was put on by Neo LA. And man, that might be my biggest highlight, because everybody was there, from Street Cleaner, Kojax, McCready, Face Hugger, The Problem of Time. There was just a lot of people there that I made a lot of friends that night, and I still talk to this day. And it was just the first time that I really felt this kind of synth fam thing that everybody talks about, you know. And it was really well known that night because as soon as we arrived, like, you know, I drove there with a couple of friends and my brother, and instantly it was like everybody just, it's kind of like you just already knew them, you know, knew them. It was like you and me, you know, the first time I met you, it was like, dude, I feel like I've known you forever, you know, but it was the first time we had met though. So that's the way the synth fam is, I believe, you know, and that was probably the highlight and why it was the highlight, Outrun the Sun.
Well, yeah, right there. I mean, you were connecting with people that you know, your peers, people that you admired, people that you felt, you know, even if it was an online thing, you know, getting to know them online, you felt the connection with them in some way because you fell in love with this beautiful genre that we call the synthwave community or the synthwave genre. You know, that encompasses like the outrun music or the retrowave music, synthwave stuff, dark synth stuff. It's all, you know, interconnected. And I think it's great. Like when you finally get to go to these events and do these events, like you actually get to connect with the people out there. You get to connect with the fans. You get to connect with, like we were saying earlier, your peers, the people that you respect, you know, and you get to have conversations. And you realize, hey, these people are really down to earth people. They're just like you and me. They're very accessible. They're very easy to talk to. It's not, you know, somebody standing on top of a pedestal looking down at everybody else. No, everybody's on the same level because in a way it's that synth fam thing, that synth fam vibe, you know, that you get from everybody. You know, nobody is better than anybody else. You know, it's like we're all just on that one level. And I think, you know, sometimes we get in our heads, we go, oh, well, this is so and so and this is so and so, and oh my god, they're like, in my eyes, huge. But no, when you get to talk to them, they're just like, they put on their shoes in the morning just like everybody else. They wake up, use the restroom, you know what I mean? It's just that
Yeah.
connectivity, you know? And, you know, the other memories that you're sharing, like, you know, when you're talking about recording with the choir, you know, I mean, that right there was freaking awesome. I mean, yes, you get to see those children, you get to see it in their eyes that they're looking ahead to the future. They are the future. They will be the next generation, you know, and they will grow up into leaders, you know, leaders of certain fields, you know, whether it's music or if it's like medicine or if it's helping out in the community, like whatever it is, like they are the future. And being able to work with them and get them to do that track with you, I think was really amazing, you know, because carrying that track, I thought it was pretty rad.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and see, that's the other great thing. Like when you were mentioning the whole synth fan vibe, um, is, you know, none other than San Junipero and Nightwave. Like you get the same vibe when you go to those. It's like you probably don't know a majority of the people there, but for some reason, as soon as you arrive, it's like everybody is so friendly. Everybody is like, it's kind of like this one big school of people you grew up with, even though you didn't. So I love that.
Everybody out there, and I've kind of said this before in past interviews, but it's really is a rainbow of people. Whenever you go to these synthwave events, it's always a big melting pot of people. People from all different backgrounds, races, you know, genders, doesn't matter. Everybody's there and they're connected for this type of music. All they want to do is go there and party and hang out and talk, you know, and really kind of get a sense of that family vibe. And I think that's what's great is that these events help connect people in that way. You know, whether you go to see a band perform live or you go to see them do DJ sets, it doesn't matter. You're there, you're connected, and you're having a good time. And it's all about the music. It's all about the music and it's all about that connectivity. And I think that is what is great because you can walk into these events and see everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a metalhead. It doesn't matter if you're into techno. It doesn't matter if you're into emo. It doesn't matter if you're into hip hop. It doesn't matter. You're all there connected. And hey, if you want to dance and go crazy, it doesn't matter. Enjoy it.
Exactly.
What would you say is your favorite musical release that you've worked on?
I would have to say my album, A Sin, that had just come out. The reason why I say that is because I've worked so hard on it. This album has been 7 years in the making, and the reason why it's taken so long is I've had quite a few challenges along the way. whether they were financially, or even this one time I had a good three-fourths of the album finished and my hard drive just went crazy and I lost everything. But in a way, it was a good thing because I think when that happened, I got back to writing again, and I think I wrote better songs this time around. And luckily, I did have a few of those like rough drafts on a CD that I could go back and listen to and redo. But there was like maybe three of those though, but the rest was lost. But luckily, like I say, I feel like that because that happened, I ended up writing better songs. Um, and just a lot of challenges, like you name it, it happened. And because of that, so this album's very special to me. um Holds a very special place, like I dedicated it to my sister who passed last year. um and also my best friend who passed right around the time that I was really starting to record this album and start writing the first few songs. So that was really kind of some of the motivation. As hard as it seems, and you being a songwriter yourself, that a lot of times when you write songs that just kind of almost like they fall in your lap, it's because of a lot of the things you go through, like a lot of the hard times, actually. Um, I can't imagine like just being happy every single day and just getting whatever you want in life, right? You probably couldn't write anything then.
No, that's true. You really couldn't, because I think it's that age-old thing where you kind of go, even though bad things may happen, right, in your life, like really bad things, sometimes they're really, really dark, it's all in the way that you pick yourself back up. It really is. And channeling, what we were talking earlier, is like channeling those things, channeling that energy, whether it's something that you feel, where you feel anger, you feel sadness, you feel even happiness. You're channeling that energy into something positive, something creative. And whether it's creating a song, creating an album, just writing whatever, like writing a story, it doesn't matter. You're channeling that energy into something creative and positive. I think that's what you've done here. And that's the beauty of your album Ascent, is that all the tracks on there, they're varied. They have a lot of different things that you're pulling from. I mean, your voice on a lot of the tracks, yes, not every track you sing on, but a lot of it deals with emotions. You have your highs, you have your lows. You have this way of connecting with the listener in a very deep way. You're conveying your feelings to the listener out there, and in turn, they're giving you their energy back. And I think that's what's great, is that with this album, you're able to play in a lot of different spaces, and I think it really worked out very, very well for you. You have
Oh,
a lot
thanks.
of electronic influences, but you also have a lot of rock elements too. And your voice really shines in this album.
Oh, thank you.
For all the tracks, and I think it's taking you some really great places.
I appreciate that, man, especially coming from you. And I always joke around, from time to time, because I always wear white and stuff like that. But I always joked around with some of my friends when we go to synthwave shows and stuff like that, because I'd wear white, or even when we play out, and they'd say, "Oh, Jak Syn wears white too," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know," and I joke that he's my brother, stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, I think that. Like I say, I appreciate that. And, you're one of the people that I look up to, and to hear you say that, it means a lot to me. So thanks, man.
No, well, thank you, dude. I gotta say, from peer to peer, from artist to artist, I gotta say, you really do have a good ear for things. You are very creative, and I respect that about you. Is that your creativity is top notch, and you put a lot of, attention to detail into what you do. And 7 years, you know what I mean? Like, taking 7 years to do this album, it's like, some people may say, oh, I know that's a long time, or I know that's a certain, or that might be a while, but it's like, it's right on time. It's right when it needs to be. It's like,
That's
there
true.
are things, me as an artist, that I work on that have been years in the making. And it doesn't happen overnight. But you're right, when you're ready to create it, it just clicks. Whatever you're writing, whenever you're in that writing process, if it feels right, go with it, just do it. If it feels wonky, maybe retool it a little bit. But if it feels right, give into it.
That is so true. And, I think that's one of the things that, being artists ourselves, that you start to realize, in the beginning when you're starting to write songs and whatnot, you're always kicking yourself, you're always doubting yourself. But then when you meet other musicians, you start to realize that, wait a minute, this is just the way it is. Songs, they have a way about completing themselves, and they will do that when they're ready, and you can't force anything. And I think when you do force them anyway. It's like, they just don't have that staying power. Um, and I think that's just one of the things you have to accept as a musician or a songwriter is when you're writing songs, um, deep down when it's right. And that feeling, right? Like you get those chills, or you just get that warm feeling inside, and that, okay, this song is ready.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, hey, if you wanna bake a pie, right? Yeah, sure, you could put all the ingredients of pie together and you can throw it in the microwave, but it's gonna turn into mush. It's not gonna do
Yeah.
anything. But you take a pie, you make it and you throw it in the oven and you let it bake. You let it bake. And then all of a sudden, when it's done, it's done. When it's nice and crispy, it's done. So it's just the way with music. It's like you can rush it, but it's never going to be what you want it to be if you rush it. But it will be ready when it's ready, and when it does, it's going to be glorious.
Yes.
What was the drive behind getting you into making music and performing?
It actually oddly started with movies. When I was a kid, I saw Blade Runner, and it just blew me away in every way. Even though I didn't understand what the movie was about and I couldn't quite comprehend what was going on, it was just the aesthetic, the music just drew me in and kept me captivated. Uh, which is kind of weird for a kid, though, because you think about Blade Runner, there really isn't a whole lot of action going on. And when you're younger, you usually tend to want stuff that's constantly happening in movies. But for some reason, that movie connected with me. And because of that, I really fell in love with music. And it went from there to like Michael Jackson. And then I got into heavy metal, like hard rock stuff like Kiss and Metallica and Pantera. And then it just kind of branched off into everything, Nine Inch Nails to Nirvana and Lamb of God to Dream Theater. And then I just found electronic music. And I think that's what kind of sealed the deal is like as soon as I discovered electronic music, thanks to my brother, he was like showing me Armin van Buren and ATB and DJ Tiesto and stuff like that. And then by the time I was really diving into it myself, I was discovering like Nero and Skrillex and Zed and that kind of stuff. It's kind of the more modern EDM stuff. And right at that time is when I discovered synthwave, Kavinsky, and Laserhawk. And that's when this whole world opened up to me. So it was kind of like this progression to kind of motivate me to where I am now. And then as far as playing live, I definitely hold or give all the credit to Kiss because that was my first concert. Um, my best friend and my sister, oddly enough, was talking about earlier, are the ones that took me to my first concert, and it was Kiss. And I didn't know anything about it. I was like, what is this? There's all this fireworks going off and they're running around stage, and it was just pretty crazy. And then from that point on, I would, start going to all these other concerts. So I think it's wild, like what you brought up earlier about synthwave is how, the diversity of it, whether regardless of race or sex or type of music they like, it just brought everybody together. And that's what helped me fall in love with this scene, was just realizing that like as soon as I started meeting people, it was everybody was into hip hop to metal to industrial to goth to pop music. And so I kind of like hold all that responsible for kind of motivating me to where I am now.
I totally agree with that. Right there. What you're talking about. I think, it's kind of weird because there's some similarities here. There's some weird similarities between you and I, you know what I mean? And when I was talking about, when you started out, of course, as a kid, you start, you get into like movies, like you see Blade Runner for the first time and you go, wow, oh my God, wow, this is amazing, right? For me, it was like big things were like anything that had robots in it, like Transformers, Macross, Robotech, whatever, Gundam. It's like, oh my God, anything with a robot in it, and then of course you find, you grow up a little bit, you start playing video games, and you kind of go, okay, well, Mega Man, okay, great, cool, and then you find like Resident Evil, that's my big thing. But as you progress, and starting to get into those like high school years, you start realizing, okay, well, I'm gonna start, getting into rock music and things like that. Finding like Rob Zombie. For me, it was like finding Rob Zombie or like Marilyn Manson, Orgy, those bands.
Oh yeah.
They were rock, but they had those electronic influences in that. And then as you progress over time, I'm going to start playing in bands and things like that. I'm going to start, singing this and that. And then all of a sudden you progress into the electronic stuff. You start, maybe I'm going to try my hand at like creating some electronic music. I'm going to get into these electronic artists. And like with the artists you were mentioning, like Tiesto, BT, those artists right there, Armin van Buuren, those artists. You meet, early David Guetta for me. And as you find these artists and you kind of progress through it, you kind of go, this was like early, like a little bit like around the time when Spotify was starting to kind of, mold itself a little bit more. I go kind of up and coming, and you kind of like go through like playlists, and you go through like, not playlists, but more like radio stations or whatever before the playlist thing started like kind of getting up there. And all of a sudden you start finding all these other artists, and you start kind of go, okay, well, what's French disco like? What's that like? What's new disco like? What is this like? And then before you know it, there you are. You're hitting into Kavinsky stuff. You're getting into like Laserhawk. My first thing was Future Cop. You know what I mean?
Oh
like
yeah.
Future Cop. So, hey, Future Cop out there, if you guys are watching this, I miss you guys. I hate the fact that you guys stopped doing Future Cop, but you will always be a fan of your music. But Future Cop, Laserhawk, those acts, Mitch Murder, send you on your journey. And it's funny to think about this, but it's 10 years. It's been 10 years. This style of music like it started emerging like 10 years ago. But here we are 10 years later. Here we are 2020, right? And it's amazing to see how much it's progressed, going from this really underground thing. And in some ways, it still is underground. But it's progressed to the forefront a lot more. I think it's that whole retro aesthetic thing that a lot of people are really into. And it's kind of reaching new heights and new audiences, especially mainstream stuff, with the inclusion of like, yes, dare I say Stranger Things and seeing the movie Drive and stuff like that. A lot of people kind of get into that style of music by seeing those things, but it's kind of seeping into the fabric of everyday life. I think it's really cool. And I think that right there is one of the things that fans of this scene want to see more of, is that hitting into the mainstream. They want to see it progress more into the mainstream. And it really is that love for this scene that is really pushing it out there. Fans are what are doing it, because without the fans, this scene would not be where it is now. And without the artists, this scene would not be where it is now. So I think artists and fans and artists themselves are the fans too. And I think all those contributions are what are making it what it is today.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's amazing the connection, it's just synonymous, and that you may have actually figured out the secret, because a lot of people are always saying, why is this scene so friendly? And it's like, out of all the scenes I've been in, metal or whatever, some people, they're just not so outgoing and helpful for each, helping each other out and stuff like that. But you may have hit the nail on the head, that maybe it's because it kind of started out as, all the artists, and then the artist became fan of the other artists. And then I think it just grew so much that eventually it really started picking up people that don't even actually play instruments or anything. Like, I think that's where it's grown since, especially since 2000 and I think 16, since FM84 and the Midnight kind of come into scene, and Michael Oakley, they kind of drew in the more, the listener. And I think because it's kind of almost homegrown of how the artists kind of like started together and were the fans of each other, I think that maybe that's why there's such this, such a a family kind of atmosphere about it.
Yeah, I think inherently at the beginning, it really was an homage to the 80s because everything sounded really 80s. Everything sounded really retro. And now, as it's progressed over the past 10 years, it's like there's a lot of blending because you're taking, influences from, yes, other electronic styles, some hip hop styles, some pop styles. You're taking those influences and you're fusing them in there. Even rock styles, metal styles, it doesn't matter. You're just kind of piling them on and see what works. And I think that's what's great is that there's a lot of people out there that do not shy away from experimentation. And I think that's what moves any scene forward. Any type of music, it's all about experimentation. If you're not experimenting, what are you doing? It's like always try to break down barriers. Always try to play with things in whatever way that you can. It's like as human beings, we're not meant to be stuck in these little boxes. We're meant to break free of the mold all the time. And I think that's what has helped the scene grow to where it is now, is because people were just like, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to take a chance here. I'm going to see what people think. If they like it, they like it. If not, oh well, at least I tried. And it's helped a lot of artists. It really has. But it's also brought a lot of fans in because they kind of go, wow, this sounds really pleasing to my ears. I really enjoy that. A lot of people who didn't know about this scene. We kind of joke around every once in a while about these, events, these synthwave events. It's like at synthwave events, you usually get people who are hardcore fans, big hardcore fans. And then you'll get people who show up who are kind of know what it's about, and maybe their friend dragged them there. And then you'll get people who come to the events that are like, don't know where the hell they are, don't know what the hell they're getting themselves into, and they end up having a really great time. And that, I think, is what's great about this, is it's kind of go like, hey, come on in here, try something different, see where it takes you, see if it speaks to you. If it speaks to you, great. If it doesn't, at least you had a night out.
Oh yeah.
What are you looking forward to accomplishing the most moving forward?
I guess really just, to continue to connect with people. I mean, there's naturally there's other goals, obviously it would be nice to do this as a career. But I think as long as somebody out there is enjoying what I release, I'm happy. I want to be able to, just like for me, and for you, like when you come home from work and you're tired, or maybe you had a bad day and maybe somebody pulled out in front of you and shook their fist at you, and you just had a really bad day. But as soon as you put in your favorite song or your favorite albums, it's like all that just disappears. And so that's what I hope to accomplish, is just that my music can do that for somebody else.
And believe me, it is doing that for a lot of people out there, because you have a lot of fans. You do have a lot of fans. Especially like, even through all of this, through this pandemic that's going on, I mean, I gotta say, like when I went to that Synth Valley live stream, seeing you perform on there on the live stream, making a lot of people happy, you had all of those listeners, all those watchers tuning in to see you perform. I gotta say, you're really touching a lot of people. You are, and your musical releases are hitting a lot of the right places. They're hitting people in their heart and in their soul, and that's what's that's what's important. I think as artists, it's our job to help trigger those emotions that people want to feel. It's like, yes, sometimes they're feeling really down, but they want somebody to they want something to speak to them in those dark moments. They want something to help elevate them to the sky, dare I say, elevate them to the sky. You know what I mean? But that's the thing. I mean, you are doing that. You are doing that. And it's great to see that you are continuing to do that. And I think once we get back to normal, or I guess that's kind of funny. We would say that before, once we get back to normal, because we ain't never getting back to normal. Let's just be honest here. Right. But hey, once we can actually get out and do shows again and connect and be in live settings again where it's safe to do so, it's going to be really great to see you performing again and get to see you doing what you do again.
Oh, thank you.
I look forward to that.
Thank you so much. And me too, man. I look forward to, I've only seen you DJ, but every time you've had a show like, your Jak Syn music, I've always missed it. And so I'm really looking forward to that when we, like you said, once we get somewhat back to normal where it's safe to do shows again. Like, I can't wait. I mean, I think that's one of the other things about our scene that we thrive on is that live atmosphere, you know, us coming together. That's a huge part of what keeps this scene going. And yeah, so I'll totally look forward to seeing some Jak Syn.
Well, thank you for that, because I cannot wait to get back out there and perform again. I cannot wait to get out there and do DJing again. I miss it. You know, the live streams are great. Don't get me wrong. Like, being able to DJ on live streams, it's great for me, because guess what? I can decorate my place, make it look however I want to. You know, I'm the guy who gets to set it all up. But don't get me wrong, those are great. But I do miss the live atmosphere. I do miss being able to connect with everybody, and I know you miss it too. And I miss being able to go to the shows and see people like you perform. I miss that. But sooner rather than later, this I know, we'll be back to it.
Exactly.
What positive message would you give your fans out there?
I would say probably one of the more important things is, it's kind of fused into a couple things, is definitely believe in yourself and trust yourself, and you know, try not to measure success by what you're seeing, you know, because we all do it. I mean, I'm totally guilty of looking at somebody else's success and trying to emulate that. But at the end of the day, if you just be yourself and really present what makes you happy, I think that alone is success. So I would do that for sure, is trust yourself and, you know, be real, be yourself.
Wise words right here, everybody, from Scott. Your success is not going to be the same as somebody else's success. Sometimes it's hard, you know, it really is hard sometimes, because, you know, we see other people succeeding at something and we want that too. But hey, it's important to remember what we feel inside of our heart is what is important. That right there. You have to be true to who you are. And some days it can be hard. You get up and you kind of go, I don't feel motivated. I don't feel motivated today. I don't feel motivated to write something or create something. And that's okay, because you don't have to create every day. You really don't. You don't have to create every day. But when you do feel in that mode where you want to do it, look inwardly. Find that inner light inside of you and let it shine. Just realize, hey, this is what I want to say. Let me get it out in whatever way that I can. To everybody out there, always hold true to who you are. Doesn't matter what's going on in the world, just block it out. Put your blinders on. Focus on what you want to focus on. Because when you do put it out in the world, your creativity and the things that you want to do, you really will go some amazing places. You will. And you'll be able to move mountains and inspire hope, inspire change, and really help people get through some tough times. You really will, just like Scott here. So thank you, everybody, for taking this time to tune in and watch us have this interview. Thank you to Scott for taking the time to sit down and have this conversation. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our Tour Fiend YouTube channel, as we have many more awesome artist interviews on the way, just like this one with Scott from Elevate the Sky. Thank you so much, Scott, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. And everybody out there, if you haven't checked out Scott's amazing music, go check out Elevate the Sky. You can find his music everywhere. It's really, really great stuff. It really inspires people to look inwardly and find that light. It really does. And if you're looking for something positive out there, go check it out. Get into it, because Scott is making some really amazing music. Thank you so much, Scott, and I'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Take care.